Across Europe, there are hidden communities you've probably never heard of. One revolves around steam, another around ancient pottery, and the last thrives deep underground. These aren't tourist shows or movie sets, they're real, living subcultures. From the smoky heat of Finnish Löyly Clubs to secretive groups that blur the line between tradition and fantasy, today we're uncovering worlds that most people never get to see. In today's video, we're exploring 3 of Europe's most unusual and captivating subcultures. We will meet the sauna enthusiasts of Finland, who take steam bathing to incredible extremes. Then, we'll travel to Romania and Moldova, where the Cucuteni Revivalists are bringing back a 7,000-year-old Neolithic culture. And finally, we'll discover Damanhur, a fascinating spiritual community in Italy that has built an underground temple filled with breathtaking art. Each of these groups might seem worlds apart, but they all share one thing: they're keeping traditions and visions alive in ways that most of us never get to experience. We start with Finland, and a country that is high on my bucket list to visit. Their people really intrigues me, but I am digressing. Finland is also a place where the sauna is far more than just a place to relax, and for a lot of people it is a way of life. Almost every Finnish household has a sauna, but there's a subculture that takes this tradition to extremes. These are the Löyly Clubs, communities that push the limits of steam bathing. For them, the sauna and sweating out is almost a spiritual path. They chase the perfect Löyly, that wave of heat and steam created when water hits the hot stones. Some meet in secret lakeside huts, some in ice-covered cabins, and a few even hold sauna marathons where endurance becomes the ultimate test. What makes this subculture so fascinating is that for outsiders, it may look like just sitting in a hot room, but for the enthusiasts, it's a doorway into Finnish history, community, and even a little bit of transcendence. This subculture exists in part because it is a national pride, but also because of the natural craving for human interaction. In an increasingly digital age, sweating together in silence feels ancient, communal, and deeply grounding.
Fiilis, se on euforia. Euforia fiilis. Natural high.
Now let's move to Eastern Europe, where the mysterious Cucuteni Revivalists culture once thrived over 7,000 years ago. Famous for its intricate pottery and goddess figurines, this Neolithic civilization left behind not just ruins but also a powerful mythos. Today, small groups in Romania and Moldova call themselves Cucuteni Revivalists. They gather to recreate rituals, make replica ceramics, and in some cases, weave spirituality around the ancient goddess figures. By reviving these traditions, they resist modern homogenization and reconnect with ancestral roots that predate Christianity and nationalism. Their behavior ranges from academic conferences to open-air festivals where participants dress in Neolithic-inspired clothing, cook over open fires, and celebrate fertility rites. The Cucuteni culture represents a lost chapter of European identity and one that revivalists believe deserves not just a space in a museum but also for it to be a living practice. Have you ever heard of a hidden underground city beneath the Italian Alps? Deep in the foothills of northern Italy lies Damanhur, a spiritual community that secretly carved an entire labyrinth of temples into the mountain without the government knowing. Founded in the 1970s by Umberto Einaudi, also known as Falco, Damanhur began as a small group of people searching for a new way of living. They believed in blending art, science, and spirituality into a single experiment in human potential. But what makes them truly extraordinary is what they built, the so-called temples of humankind. The video you are watching shows walking in their vast chambers filled with stained glass, hand-painted walls, mosaics, and massive statues. It is all carved by hand, in secret, over the course of years. These underground temples stretch across multiple levels, connected by winding tunnels. Each hall is dedicated to different universal themes such as water, earth, time, and the stars, but there are many more elements. The reason for this secrecy was both practical and philosophical. At the time, the community did not have permits for such an ambitious underground project, and they feared that authorities would shut them down if the scale was revealed. Falco himself claimed to have had visions of subterranean temples since childhood, and members saw the construction as a sacred mission, too fragile and easily misunderstood to expose to outsiders. Secrecy also protected them from criticism. Alternative spiritual movements in 1970s Italy were often labeled cults, and building quietly gave the group space to grow without ridicule or intervention. At the same time, the act of creating the temples together by hand forged deep bonds within the community. Working in secrecy with only basic tools gave members a shared sense of purpose and devotion, turning architecture into a living expression of their commitment. For decades, hardly anyone outside Damanhur knew the temples even existed. The secret only came to light in the 1990s, when Italian authorities discovered the site after some snitch gave them a tip-off. Initially, there was a risk of demolition, but when officials finally saw the artistry and scale of the underground halls, they granted recognition instead. Today, amazingly, the temples are considered cultural heritage and remain open to guided visits. Damanhur is still active today. It functions as both an eco-village and a spiritual society with its own constitution, schools, and even its own currency. To some, it stands as a utopian experiment in creativity and communal living. To others, it feels more like a secretive cult. Whatever the interpretation, Damanhur remains one of the most fascinating underground societies in the world, quite literally hidden beneath the surface of Italy. So, what do you think? Were the temples of humankind simply a bold artistic vision? Or is there something deeper hidden beneath the Italian Alps? The mystery of Damanhur still sparks questions today about faith, secrecy, and how far people will go to create their own world. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to help this channel grow. I find an immense amount of joy researching and creating these videos, and I'd love to hear from you, so feel free to drop a comment below. Would you step inside the underground city of Damanhur, or does it feel more like a secret society to you? That brings us to the end of my script, but the video will continue playing for a few more minutes as there are some fascinating art still to show, and it is well worth watching. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you for the next video. I release at least one a week.
a world in harmony with nature, with others, and with ourselves. A world where people are nourished by diversity and beauty. Do you believe it can exist? Utopia. Discovering dreams that are reality.